Milton here. And before I get into the interview, I wanted to make a quick apology to my guest and to the audience. So we recorded this about a month ago, and I've been sitting on it because I had two issues really. One, life got away from me, and two, I was having some issues with the sound. And I've been trying to do what I can to fix it in post-production. But folks, if you're a Luddite, don't start a YouTube channel. So I've done the best that I can with the sound. Unfortunately, the sound isn't great, but a lot of the content here is, so I hope that you get something out of this interview, and I do want to thank, again, my guest, JP, for coming on the channel, and let's get into the interview.
So, hey everyone, Milton here from Adeptus Adequate, and I'm joined today by JP, who took second place at the 2025 Nova Open last weekend playing Blades of Khaine. I've asked him to come on the channel and to talk a bit about his decision to play Blades of Khaine, the Nova Open specifically, and the metagame. So JP, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, I'm JP, so like Milton said, I played Blades of Khaine at Nova. I started playing last November. I really fell in love with the game and the way it plays. And Blades of Khaine was kind of a perfect fit for me. So I'm really happy to be able to chat about some of my tricks and techniques here with Milton.
Awesome. And so just as a little bit more background information, because I was poking around on BCP, I think you're currently ranked 19th in the ITC. You recently came in, not recently, but you came in third at Adepticon. And it looks like you primarily in the past have played Phobos Strike Team. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So when I got into the game, that was the team where I really found my original kind of home. Because I like being consistent, having a team that, rather than jumping around and around. And a lot of the reasons I like Phobos, a lot of the reasons I actually like Blades of Khaine. Elite, super flexible, dual threat operatives with a lot of burst damage. And there's some trade-offs between the two of them, between Blades of Khaine and Phobos. And I feel like Phobos have probably better raw damage output and a little bit more powerful, but Blades make up for it, and more than make up for it, and in a lot of other ways. I mean, having 8 operatives versus 6 is obviously huge for activation order, and then the ability to compose little micro strategies that you can contrive with all of these different aspect techniques. A lot of them are very situational, and there's not a lot that are suited towards general gameplay. But when you can put the puzzle piece in the right place, it all feels like it's coming together, and that's really rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's doing weird things and hair. I mentioned this in a previous video. I actually played Phobos before Blades of Khaine came out as well. So yeah, I definitely identify with that transition between those two teams. There's definitely a lot that they have in common, and a lot of things that make them both really fun and dynamic to play. So how long have you been... You decided to play Blades of Khaine fairly recently, right?
Yeah, so after I got my ticket in May, I kind of moved away from Phobos because I felt like I had gotten what I could out of them, and they're being phased out anyways. And so I tried Brood Brothers for a little bit. Very strong team, great team, but it didn't just gel with me. And what I've learned more and more is just your ability to bond with the team you're playing has a lot to do with my interest and desire to take them far.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tried out Brood Brothers, had some good results, but wanted to see what else was out there. And so then I tried Gore Pioneers because that was my most hated matchup with a lot of the other teams I was considering.
Yeah.
But, I kind of found that they themselves are walled a bit by, honestly, I had to play 8 of 10 tournament games or Ravners or Nemesis Claw, and I just got tired of that. I was like, I don't want to do this. So
that's very fair, yeah.
Yeah, so when I was deciding for Nova, I had been, and also Blades of Khaine just take forever to get ready, to collect and get ready. So I had to wait for Alley Banshees to be in stock. Obviously the Scorpions aren't a problem. But then, if you got to paint them all, and if you want to do all the aspects justice, that takes a while too. But for Nova, I was considering, what do I think I'm going to enjoy playing? What am I worried about? And what's going to give me the best chance to win? So I kind of just created like a Google sheet for Vulcus, and I Into the Dark, and then I put all the matchups that I was like afraid of facing. So like, Sanctifiers, Geller Parks, because I have to play Orion a lot and locally, but I guess that's not a problem team for anyone
I didn't
else.
realize he was local.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've taken second to him in so many locals, it's not even funny. And so that's like the story of my life. So that was actually something that really came into mind, because like Gormpongers, I think, are just awful in Together Pox, trying to shoot through those hulks, hitting on fours and all their shenanigans. But Blades of Khaine, especially on Into the Dark, they skewed a lot less than any of the other teams. So I didn't feel like a bad matchup would take me out of a tournament, which is something I also felt like with Phobos. And so I'd rather not fear, every time I refresh to see who my next round opponent is. Like, is this I would rather take an even game than auto win or an auto loss. And I feel like Blades gives you a pretty fair shake against almost all the teams that you can play against. Even if they can't match the lethality or like the raw stat blocks of the teams, they're good enough at playing the mission, and they're flexible enough with the ability to like make so many team compositions and take any attack off archetype, that even if you might not be able to like kill their team, you can still score a lot and potentially pull out a close win.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There was yesterday, I was playing a thing in Montreal, and we sort of had a similar discussion at the end of the game, as we were looking at. There was enough players that there were multiple undefeated at the end of the 3 rounds. I wasn't one of them. I had a terrible game 1, and then 2 good games after. But there were some weird matchups with like elf teams into. Going into the 3rd round, just the way the pairings shook out, the guy that won was playing Void Dancers and didn't have to play into the guy that was running Exaction Squad. So, it's just like that's a really, really rough matchup, right? Like, that's definitely not the one you want to see. But yeah, like Blades of Khaine have some flexibility, have a pretty big toolkit, and even in those rougher matchups, it's not unwinnable. There's usually something you can try to do. So yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I actually think from a raw power level that Void Dancers supersede Blades of Khaine. Like, if you are looking for kind of a stat check team, but they're a lot less dynamic, because they're just far less adaptable. They have unbelievable tools, and I think the tools that they do have kind of eclipse some of the Blades of Khaine tools, but they're kind of stuck in their ways. And so, that was kind of the deal breaker for me on that front.
Sure, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, and also another thing, it probably doesn't play into decision making ahead of Worlds, but afterwards, Void Dancer Troop are getting declassified. So,
there you go.
Yeah, Blades of Khaine are also sticking around for several years, so. I've at least got a couple years to continue to do YouTube stuff before people are like, why do you still exist? But anyways, so kind of going on from the metagame decision to play Blades of Khaine into the field, you had mentioned as we were chatting that you had watched at least some of the videos that I've put up. I've said before, I really want this to be like a complete resource for people. Is there anything that that you've been doing that I don't recommend, or that that you disagree with me on? Like, anything that you think should be in my videos? Because there's a chance.
The one thing that I kind of disagree on would be, as far as the Triskel Banshee goes.
Okay.
I think that you said you don't like the Triskel Banshee. I love the Triskel Banshee.
Yeah.
I run it with a Power Sword and a Triskel, and it's my go-to in the boards, because one of the plays I really like setting up is where I can acrobatics into a stronghold through like a horde staging area and then double shoot them in the back with a Triskel. And so you get lethal 5 rending. I took it into my game against Sanctifiers. That was my semifinals game. And it's great because the damage reduction would kind of make it would be like a 2/3 weapon anyways.
So it goes to 2/2, right?
Yeah, so 2/2, but with lethal 5 up rending, and you can threaten like larger parts of the board. But I had a lot of success with that. I mean, and you still have the power sword to boot, so you can do it all. And I've been really enjoying that. That's my go-to if I can justify it.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome. I'll have to give that another shake and try and give it a more fair review next time, right?
Yeah. No, that I mean, coupled with the Scream is really awesome. So yeah, definitely recommend giving it a go, especially against hordes, but like also against Gellerfox. I had to play Orion twice in my pairings for Nova, and I took the Triskel Banshee Exarch in the second game, which I won, but not in the first game, which I lost. And I was able to get on a second vantage point and just be a massive problem. Get a torrent to take out a couple of the bugs, do some chip on one of the Hulks, and
they don't have the range tools to really threaten you from vantage either, unless they can physically get there to charge, right?
Exactly. So I went on engage. In retrospect, I think it's possible I should have just stayed on conceal, but I went on engage because I kind of wanted him to take both of his crack grenades and chuck them at me, and I survived. I had to use my Justice Scratch, but I survived, and then once those cracks were gone, like that Banshee wasn't going to move. And so I was able to force the issue with her.
Okay, so then I think that's a pretty good kind of segue into talking a little bit more about Nova itself. So we've kind of talked about the decision to play Blades of Khaine and the lead up to it. So do you want to just kind of take the lead and talk a little bit about the tournament and some of your matches?
Yeah, absolutely. So I ended up playing mostly. Well, actually, I guess I played pretty mixed. I was going to say I didn't really play any elites. I didn't play any Space Marines except for Plague Marines in my second round. But I'll just kind of give the chronological run through. In my first round, I was on Into the Dark against Jaegers, against the guy Ryan. Really, really nice guy, a local. One of the unfortunate parts about Nova for me was I got matched up almost every single round into someone I knew and been friends with. And I like that's not what you want to do with it. Like if you don't want to have to min max against people who are your friends that you see all the time. But that was on Into the Dark. And one of the funny things is I consider myself weaker player on Into the Dark because when I started playing Season 3 launch, I played a lot of Vulcus, and I think I used the verticality really well. Just a product of like the practice I have with Phobos, and then the Banshee's acrobatic. I need the versatility of having 3 APL and a 7-inch move. But the more I played Into the Dark, the more I came around on it from like the Blades perspective, because the APL dominance, like with opening hatchways and then actually getting value out of an operative, is fantastic. The lethal 5, your lethality boosts a ton, and then guard can be super aggressive in the right scenarios, which I think a lot of Space Marines appreciate that well. And so I was pretty happy there. That game, that was interesting because Ryan had staged up. It was on the LVO maps, the 2 long halls on either side, and he had opened the door turn 1. And he had his leader, his bombast, a warrior, and I think the tracker all up there. And that was an interesting decision because what I did was I just put a Scorpion on Super Goon Seal, like I don't know, within like 4 inches or so of them, and then I just Dance of Death. I won initiative. I Dance of Death, and then I just screamed on like 3 of the guys, did a ton of chip damage, burned all of their like damage reduction, and then I just paid a command point to shoot again. I took out the bombast, and that play like in itself kind of closed the door for him because he just didn't have the operatives to kind of come back from that.
Yeah.
But so that was a pretty good start for the Blades. So high point was definitely that play. I don't think that there was necessarily a low point. In that game, I took the Avenger Exarch. He has kind of been my comfort pick because the reliability is one of the things I like. The dice control is so good on this team, and that's one of the things I absolutely love. Uh, Always having ceaseless, pretty easy to get in balance, free double shoot. You can get a lot of value out of that. And so I took him in this game. I took take ground, which was my kind of default tactic. I think in retrospect now, I probably should have reconsidered that on Vulcus a bit more, but on Into the Dark, it's just fantastic. My next game was into Plagues on Into the Dark, another LVO map against one of my friends, Eli, and that one I was just able to control the tempo of the game and kind of just choose my matchups, like just be very opportunistic, play around his threat ranges, and then kind of whittle those down with Dire Avenger double shoots. I also took the Dire Avenger Exarch into that, and once again, running game I took take round. My third game was against Orion. This was on Vulcus. It was not a good take ground map. I don't remember the exact Vulcus map it was, but it was pretty tough. I took Clamp Beacons, which I hate taking, and I'm really glad that it's gone. I only take it if I absolutely need to, and like a competitive game, I'd never take it in a casual game. And that was a close game. I think he probably ended up with a better side of the map, even though I chose the map side. This was the one with a stronghold in each side. It's a long map, so it's like narrower. I had like the second vantage point stronghold on my side. It was pretty close. The one thing that he won that game, and it was I think like 19-12 or something like that. I was able to get my beacons. It took a lot away from my action economy. Both my scorpions died way earlier than they should have. He was able to polluted stockpile my chest to scratch away, so like delete your equipment.
And that makes some of the melee real tough into the hulks.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it also means if you need a guy to survive, it's so that it takes more of their action economy away. Like with one of those scorpions would have been real nice to get that. But I just couldn't stop the advance with them. And I was able to do a lot of damage, but some of the operas you're dealing don't really matter for the kill up. 11 is really rough on the kill up anyway.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the way she goes. So Ryan just does things to people. And so for the fourth round, I matched up into Ravners in Spin. He's a TO in like Richmond. And I played at one of his tournaments before. I was playing Gormongers. I knew he played Ravners. He's a very solid Ravners player. I prepared a lot for this matchup. So my main practice partner plays Ravners. So I was ready for this. And the Ravners are what drove me away from Gormongers in large part anyway. There's two ways I've seen Ravners play, and that's like very cagey and, try to stay even turn 2 and then wait until your team's power waxes later in the game, then you really push the issue. Or, you could just go full throttle and just try to table your opponent. He kind of took the latter approach, and he caught me off guard. He was able to kind of crush a flank. But I was okay with that, even though I was at one point down, I think 3-0 operatives. I was fine with him having multiple, like almost all of his Ravners. This was a whiteboard on my far left flank because I was never down in the mission, and he took Implant, which I think is horrible into elves. If you leave an elf on 1 wound, Howling Banshee on 1 wound can still do whatever. Like they could put out 20 wounds if you have to keep her alive, and it's real tough to carry them out.
Yeah.
With my Dire Avenger, what I did is I just fall back, ignore injury, double shoot the Ravner,
Yeah.
because they can survive some fights they shouldn't with 4 dice.
Yeah, well, and also, and one of the nice things about playing Blades of Khaine is it only takes somebody like whiffing once into a Banshee, like charging, and you use Contempt, and just like sometimes the dice hit, and they don't have hits, and you've got a bunch of crits, and they just charge you and die on their activation.
Oh, no, absolutely. Especially with the Ravners who lean so much on their command point rerolls.
Yeah.
And it's always tough. One of like the decisions when to use Contempt and when not to use Contempt is always such a tough call. I found that learning in this tournament, if my opponent wants to pay a command point for a CP reroll, it's probably worth using Contempt, because if they're a good player and they think that it's worth getting that extra hit, I probably just want to veto that. And so I that was kind of the approach I started taking after my game with Orion, where I didn't veto one of his command point rerolls, and then it was really devastating. But yeah, I took take round into that. I probably shouldn't have, but it worked out in the end, and I kind of just won on points. I was able to focus down his Raptors after they got their kills. And then the way I explained it to him is, if I lose an elf, I lose 3 APL. If you lose a Raptor, you lose 3 APL, but you only have 15 APL. So for me, even a 2-for-1 trade is all right if I can control kind of where you are on the board, because if you have the Rekka on the far left flank, he's not doing anything for the rest of the game, and I don't even need to kill him. So he's not going to be a problem past that. And so I think it was kind of the APL dominance that won that for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Any thoughts before we go into day 2? Just 3 games left.
No. I think that's all really interesting stuff, and I might shoot you a message later just to talk more about the Ravners matchup, because it's not one that I've had a chance to play very much, unfortunately. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you consider yourself fortunate, because they're kind of a pain to play.
Well, yeah, that's been mine. I've played them once in a tournament, and I was not playing well that day. I lost. I should have lost. It was still a close game, but I just like to maybe pick your brain a little bit more about like having played into them a bunch.
Yeah, absolutely. So my strategy going into it was, if I got Vulcus against Ravners, I would go Mono Banshee, because the screams I think are worth their weight in gold.
Okay.
And then I also just love the acrobatics twice a turn, and then making them hit on 4s is just fantastic. I ended up going mixed because it was the 4th round of that day. I played 3 games in the team tournament before. I just was like, I want to go with what I'm comfortable with. I'm not going to make any late post halftime adjustments here.
Makes sense.
But I do need to try that out. I've never got an opportunity to, because the other times I played them with Blades was on Into the Dark, where I don't think you go Mono Banshee. But if I were to do it again, I would definitely consider that. And that's one of the other things I need to try more, which is running mono aspects, because I think that there's probably a lot you can get out of those.
Yeah, I think so. I think Mono Banshees is the one that makes the most sense in the widest spread of matchups. But there's some people out there that swear by Mono Dire Avengers in certain matchups. I haven't tried it, but I've been seriously considering all striking Scorpions in several matchups, including Deathwatch, actually.
Really?
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm seriously considering. I really need to get some games in against more people with that, so I'm going to try to, in the next 2 weeks, do some TTS with it. But I think there's some serious play there.
I think that Scorpion's viability went way up with the new approved op stack.
Yes. Yeah, and we can get to that more at the end in some depth, because I think that's super interesting stuff going forward. But do we want to get into day 2 of Nova?
Sure. So my first game was a rematch against Orion. So I had a chance for my revenge. This was on a wide Vulcus map, and this Vulcus map was the one I played the finals on, actually, and I kind of got both ways, because it's a bit of a shooting gallery. There's a stronghold, the large stronghold on one side, and then your stronghold, or at least of the side. I got the smaller stronghold over here on the right side of the wide map. And then there's like a lot of very sparse coverage, some of it light, some of it heavy. Always very challenging for Gellerpox. I took Clan Beacons again. It didn't work for me last time, but I got points out of it. But this one, I think I already touched on it. I think one of the pivotal plays was the Banshee Exarch with the Triskel getting up there, burning his crack grenades, and that meant that my Dire Avengers could safely sit on vantages without facing any like reprisal.
Nice.
And so the goal was to get him to burn his cracks. He burned his cracks. My Banshee Exarch lived. Now, albeit I think I had done some command points, maybe like a contempt and a just scratch into that.
Yeah.
But it gave me like kind of unilateral control of the pace of the game because my Dire Avengers just couldn't be touched at that point. The Banshee got a second, Exarch got a second shot. I think I acrobatic the second time and then threw another torrent shot, but my screams and the chip damage from the Triskel were really strong in that. He took secure center, and then I also just rolled really well. So, sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
Like with the dice reliability. Oh, the other thing, in my first game against Orion, I walked away from that. I was like, man, I rolled terribly in that game. Then I realized he was just really good about not giving me the combats that suited my like dice reliability buffs. So I just was rolling without ceaseless, and
it makes such a huge difference.
It's such a huge difference. And so I think that's one of the things that makes it so important to like do tempo control with the blades, and that's something they're really good at. But if you don't control the tempo, then you can't pick your fights, and I think you need to fight super opportunistically because they aren't a stat check team at all. So you need to be smart about your engagement.
Yeah, 64 or I guess 65 wounds is not enough to just like sit there and duke it out with people in the middle of the board and let them get the fights they want.
Yeah,
like,
it's
it just
absolutely not.
Yeah.
Most things will just kill an elf once they get it. So you really need to be good about trading and getting value for each model. Like one of the things I do is like after each game, I go through each model. I'm like, did I get value out of this guy? Did he earn his keep? What did I do wrong with him? Why didn't he? But I got value out of all of my models that game, which was awesome. So then moving on to the second one against Mike with Sanctifiers. This was on another LVO into the dark map. I took Take Ground. This was interesting. I think at this point, both Mike and I were not playing our best because like it was just such a long weekend. Yeah. And this was like before lunch too, so we just woke up and like got after it. We talked too long beforehand. We were just chatting beforehand, and so we only finished round 3. But I pulled that out 12-6. I think it probably would have been. I think I probably would have gotten like 19 or 20 points if we had played turn 4. So I was able to get Torrent 2 double shoot with a Dire Avenger to open turn 2. He gave me the turn 2 initiative. And I was able to pick his operatives off outside of the sermon because I think on Into the Dark it's a lot harder for them to control their aura. But he was also played Take Ground, and there's kind of like an open space on this one, a large room on the side I was on my left side, on the side I was on, and then there's like a smaller room with his home objective on the right side. And he put his Confessor behind the small room. So I understand the strategy because it's the exact same as mine on that side of the map, where I just take the two doors, the 2 hatches in that small room with my home objective, and then you can just hold that room, and that will give you 9 points plus whatever you need on the crit off. But he couldn't stage well into that room because I had opened up the hatch. I don't know, with a scorpion or something. And then if he had moved up to one of his light barricades, I could have shrieked,
Yeah.
like the kills. And so he was stuck with that door closed because he was worried about me, going in and then just going for the confessor or whoever he had there. So he started turn 2 with nobody in that room and with the door closed. And I closed the door late in my turn anyways. Or I think I actually had a guy on. Yeah, anyways, it doesn't matter. But so I was able to kill a couple of these guys out of the servant, and I mean, he caused a lot of pain with his blaze tokens, picked off my scorpions. But the fact that he didn't have any long-range threats, like he took the Melta, and so the Dire Avengers were able to come in real handy.
Yeah.
Just kind of standing way far back on guard with like decent sight lines. And that kind of did it. So I was just able to, again, control the tempo, choose the fights that I wanted, and I took some losses, but it panned out.
Yeah, so Sanctifiers is an interesting matchup. It can be tough because they've got some pieces that are really good at killing us. But I had to play a buddy yesterday playing Sanctifiers round 3. And I talked to folks in Command Point Discord, like, oh, we're going to do a video about Sanctifiers. And my initial response has been like, I don't know, I don't want to do a video that's just like be way better than your opponent and get lucky. But there's actually a lot more to the matchup than that. And exactly what you were talking about with controlling tempo, especially on ITD, where you've got those hatchways where they usually have to bunch up and then they have to like sequence their activations in order to use Lead the Procession and to open doors. And that gives us really good opportunities to get double kills or to get torrent shots or blast shots or double fights. And you can do the same thing on Volcus to a lesser extent around the stronghold doors, where they often have to bunch up at the beginning of turning points. And there's actually a lot of play there, and it can be a tough matchup for sure, but it's definitely playable and winnable.
I think on Into the Dark is a lot better. I'm very lucky that I didn't get it on Volcus, and I think a lot of that came down to like game plan. Because like I said, I did the exact same thing if I was playing that side of the map, which is take ground, control those 2 doors, keep that room safe. So I kind of anticipated that's what exactly he was going to do, which is why I took the risk, opened, and then threatened the inside of that room. And it paid off big, because I think in Kill Team, sometimes like if your game plan is wrong or your opponent just kind of makes the read like before the game even starts, this is what he's going to try to do, it can just like close off any path to victory like from turn 1. But they do have a lot of annoying defensive tech. Just scratch every turn is super frustrating. Ceaseless defense dice is super frustrating. I got off easy because a lot of the guys I was fighting were not in the Ceremon, so that was really nice.
Yeah.
Can
you imagine how good Blades of Khaine would be if Eminent Grace worked like Fervent Brawl? Yeah. Just ceaseless on melee all the time, forever. Oh my god, that would be so good.
That would be awesome. Yeah, one can only dream. The one thing about the Sanctifiers, though, is the Banshees just do so great into like fighting them, because when they're hitting on 5s, it's pretty rough for them. Especially with the pre-parry, you can parry them out often and then kill them through the damage reduction. So, and Triskel Banshee again came in very clutch on that. Because they really love to cluster, even more than like most Horde teams.
Yeah, because they've got several pieces with those aura-based abilities.
And then my final game was against Adrian's Higher Tech. So the only time I played Higher Tech with Blades was on Into the Dark, and it was a pretty different matchup. My game plan, I was just totally spent at this point. So my game with Mike went way over time. So like I didn't have any time for lunch, so I kind of just went straight into the final game. And I was on the same map that I played Orion on, where it's just kind of a shooting gallery, except for against Higher Tech, they're a better shooting team than we are. So it actually was pretty nice for him. My game plan was just bad. I took take ground, even though like I took beacons into right on that map earlier that day, and if I had taken beacons, I think I probably could have won this game because he took confirmed kill. And with take ground, I didn't need to take the stronghold, or I needed to take 2 ruins, like in his drop zone effectively. And he played super defensive. And if I was going to score points on my tack up, I needed to get across the board, and he made that super hard. So I kind of just had to force the issue and take what he offered me, which was really bad opportunities, like in Immortal with the Chronometron on it, and 3 dice sucks. And their Tesla weave is absolutely brutal. The other thing which I didn't realize, and I should have known this, but the Immortals always count for 3 APL on the objectives, even if you stun them or anything like that.
Oh, I didn't know that either until just now.
Well, now you know. So it made it. I had done some stuff, and I was expecting to be able to tap through objectives, and I just couldn't. And the other thing that really hurts for is take down, because I was thinking, okay, there's 2 APL, we're 3 APL, we have the same number of models, I should be able to get this off. But it's no, they actually count for 3 APL, and even if you stun them, you can't do anything about it, and they come back. So so I was just stuck making sacrifices for no gain in that game, and he demolished me. So that was rough. But it's okay. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah, and I mean, there is certainly nothing wrong with coming in second. How many players were in the Nova Open?
I think about 100. I don't know.
It's pretty damn good. So I know I've said this a number of times, but congratulations again. That's really cool. And I was because I need another thing to pay attention to online. I was looking through a bunch of the tournament results, and I think the next highest placed Blades of Khaine player was in 57th place.
Yeah, Blades did not have good. They kind of got walloped across the tournament. I when you mentioned that to me, I looked at it. Because I think there was only one other person who didn't win any, didn't win a game across both of the days. So that's a bummer. But I think that they are tough to pilot. I think that one of the reasons, and I think their win rate has generally been pretty high, and that's a little bit perplexing to me, because when I play them, they aren't a stat check team. And those stat check teams tend to have the highest floors.
Yeah.
I think it's because you really, really have to want to collect them and play them to get them onto the table.
Yeah, everyone that's playing them has invested some time and some money and some effort that maybe other teams don't have to invest as a starting point.
Yeah, and they're not a lot of people look, I think, at Blades of Khaine and they're I don't want to deal with basically 23 firefight employees. And so I think that. But I think that if they become more of a meta choice, then that should even out a bit. Because they don't feel super. There's no one thing that feels super powerful. They don't feel like Phobos felt, which they had really impressive abilities, Omni Scramble, no rerolls within 6 inches, flipping to conceal after shooting, guard on conceal on any map, those kind of things. They don't have one aspect technique that feels like it can win you a game. But in their totality, I think they're obviously incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I agree completely. So I think that's also kind of a good lead in, since we're talking about the team as a whole here. We just had a conversation right before this call, very briefly, about today is September 7th, and yesterday the embargo is lifted for all of the Approved Ops 2025 decks. So brand new information, new crit ops, new tac ops for everybody. Obviously, nobody's had a chance to really play with them yet, unless you're one of the folks that got an advanced copy. I was reading these in the car coming back from a tournament yesterday, so it's all brand new information. But going forward, do you think you're gonna like stick with Blades of Khaine for a while, or are there other teams you're pivoting to in the light of the new approved ops deck?
No, I think I'm going to stick with Blades because I like sticking with a team.
Yeah.
And I also feel like I've only really scratched the surface because I really haven't been playing like that long. I'd only gotten like probably like 10 games before Nova with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was running again, like take ground and plant beacons, like if I really, really felt like I had to. But they have access to all the archetypes. And I also only ran like 3 Dire Avengers, 3 Banshees, and 2 Scorpions. So like there's a lot more flexibility, which I need to explore. The other thing is with the change of approved ops, the tac ops are way more balanced. And so I think that and far more situational. So
and like I think there's only maybe 1 or 2 that have really low like interactability. There's a lot of things that are going to be scoring fewer tac op points just because people will be able to, to disrupt your game plan more often, which I think is interesting and good for the game, personally.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I think that the new approved ops is a huge improvement over what we had. And I think the missions are better too. So I think that it's going to require a lot more practice to get the most out of the team because I'm going to have to practice with these new tac ops that I don't know, and there's no auto takes, so I actually need to consider situationally. But 1 for each archetype that I like am prioritizing practicing. I think flank looks solid into the right matchup. That's going to be a running theme, is like into the right matchup.
Yeah.
But especially with Mono Banshees, I think that looks great. And then Steel Intelligence, I think, is the best potentially overall, which is like an infiltration, so a Scorpion tac op. One of the things I noticed with the maps too that they released, and with the Team World maps and the Focus maps, is that I think the Scorpions are going to do a lot more work because the objectives are like really out there, and there's just a lot of light terrain and key spots. So I think from both the seek light threat projection standpoint, the super conceal defensive standpoint, and the ability to switch to conceal and move, I think those are really going to be nice. And then additionally, the grid ops, I think, require a lot more presence on the objectives and interaction with the objectives. So I think you're going to actually want operatives sitting on objectives, which Scorpions are probably the best at because the team isn't really built to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, having Banshees sitting on an objective is not doing a whole lot for you, or is about to get killed. It's generally my experience. I agree completely on all of that. I think it'll be really interesting, and just calling out some interesting tac ops going forward because we have access to security. I think like several of the new security tac ops require you to go to the other half of the board, which a lot of the teams that play security normally now do not want to do. But I think we're uniquely suited to. So,
100%.
Against any of the elite teams that we outnumber, being able to just like throw a striking Scorpion across the board as our envoy in conceal and just like have them run circles around people's backfield is really interesting.
Oh, I totally agree with you. It's so weird to me that is part of the security archetype, because I was thinking about it. I was like thinking about monoliths, and I was like, man, I really wish I didn't have to take 3 Dire Avengers to play this. Like, I would much rather take Scorpions and Banshees and like use Dance of Death, like in the strategic phase. I think it's going to be really, really nice coupled with Envoy because you have to declare it, then you score it, if you're Banshee or whoever turn 2, probably Banshee with Acrobatics is going to score it for you turn 2. You can swap with a striking Scorpion on Super Conceal in the strategic phase. And I think that'll be really helpful. I think planting Banner with Banshees with Acrobatic too. It's weird because I think the two security ones that we want to play, I don't think we have the Malos to trade for Martyr. But both of those are like not Dire Avenger strengths, but you need them in list to make it happen.
Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting. And so just kind of like thinking about the metagame, some of the teams like Sanctifiers, right now they usually are playing security. And I guess they can play Martyr fairly well. But like I don't think Sanctifiers want to be doing losing my mind here. I don't think Sanctifiers want to be playing Plant Banner. So like maybe Envoy trying to like slingshot a guy up at the end of a turning point, but like I think that might open up a little bit more gameplay for us into some of those security teams like Sanctifiers, and yeah, I think it'll be really interesting. I can't wait to get some games in and play tests.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm super excited for it too. I mean, I think the Sanctifiers player is probably looking more at the Seek and Destroy archetype now.
Yeah.
I think that Route is really good. I think that people are a little bit too high on Route personally right now, but I think for them specifically, it's really good because of their mobility and the way that they play. I do think that Route is pretty easy to counter in some ways because you have to be within 6 inches of like the opponent's deployment zone.
Mm-hmm.
And especially like against Blades of Khaine, like imagine if your opponent is playing flank and you're playing route, so they're all on your side of the board turn 2 to try to control both.
Just swap.
Yeah, in my notes actually when I was reading through and I was taking notes and I was looking at all the maps, I was like, I can foresee like lots of different permutations of TAC selection, which is just going to end up with both teams running past each other and ending on the other side of the board, which is a really weird phenomenon.
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to be just an entirely different world at some of the big tournaments going forward. So, yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, no, me too. I'm really happy because the other thing, and I think that they did a good job of is, I think that there's a bit of a skew with like durability and damage output in the game. Like some teams just have way better damage output or are more durable, but the crit ops and the tag ops release actually I think counterbalance that. So like if Death Watch is super durable and super killy, I think the missions, the ways that you score actually do a pretty good job of meaning that doesn't matter as much as it used to. So I'm really excited from that.
Awesome. Well, I think that kind of covers everything that we had on our sort of our list here. Was there anything else you wanted to cover before we get out of here?
No. I think that's about it. Yeah, I think we covered a lot of bases. We get into like map specific strategy, but I don't think that's something. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on and doing this interview with me. I really appreciate it. Again, congratulations for coming in second at Nova. That's incredible. And I we talked about this before. I'm from Northern Virginia, and I've been meaning to come back home and like visit my sister for a while. So like knowing that you and Orion are in the area, I'll have to make sure I like bring some teams with me and get some games in when I'm down there. It's super fun.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. And thanks for having me. It was kind of crazy to be invited onto this channel because your videos were very instrumental. I remember getting a haircut and like waiting in the lobby. I was like watching your videos on my phone, like before I started playing this game. It's awesome to get to talk to you, and I had a great time. So thanks for having me.
Awesome, thanks. Thank you all for listening. If you're interested in more Blades of Khaine content, but also general Kill Team content, please like and subscribe to the channel, and see you soon. Bye.